Alrighty, good morning everybody. It's Wednesday, June 28th, 2023 here. And we're going to get started. We're going to do our review here for yesterday and then jump into our pre-market for this morning. So, this is the thing here as we've been watching these potential bullish signals from the daily lows. Well, after yesterday, we now have an official bullish signal on the daily, right? Because we were watching potential bullish signals, and that's what's giving us, or that's what gave us that slight bullish bias every morning for the last 3-4 mornings, right? We had the potential daily, and then the 4-hour and the hourly were giving really nice clear signals from the overnight lows or from the low of the day before. So the pops that we were getting were the moves we were expecting, but we were in the context of a bearish market. So every time the bulls did pop, we were pretty skeptical, right? We said there were a lot of levels that the bulls would have to get through before we really started to become stronger bulls. And so every day we got a pop, and then the market got swatted back down, and in many instances right off 50% of the previous daily range. And that happened, I think, 2 or 3 days in a row. We got a pop, and then it failed right around 50% of that previous day. Well, yesterday, it was the same scenario in the pre-market. So as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen here, we've got this big breakout to the upside. That wasn't there when we were in our pre-market, right? So in the pre-market, all we could say was our daily was showing some, and I'll move this over here now. The daily down here from the day before was showing a potential bullish signal. And what did we see? We saw that. So that's all we could see was a push lower on RVI. And maybe I could bring this up a little further. Push lower on RVI. Push much higher on price in terms of lows, and then we saw the 4-hour and the hourly with the nice bullish signal from that low. So coming into yesterday, we said there was a good chance that they were going to again attempt to pop out and break out to the upside. Of course, we had to lay out the groundwork here and point out that there were a lot of levels that were going to be above current market price before the market opened here. That could hold the market down, right? The market could have came up to the overnight high. That was kind of one of our lines in the sand there, and maybe peek through it and then fail back down. Could have come up to, say, the holy orange power level or 50% of the previous day, have some trouble in there, and even though they try to pop, get swatted back down by the bears. It's very hard to say 100% what the market's going to do going into the future. So we had our conditions. We said if the market could not break the low of the day before, where we got all of those nice potential bullish signals and closed bullish signals on the hourly and the 4-hour, if the market could not break there, we were expecting an attempt to break out, right? And if the market could get through the high of the overnight session there, we put a line in the sand and said if they can get through there, then we were looking for an attempt for the bulls to come out and break through the high of the day before over here. I believe it was also a, well, let's just leave it at that. So that's what we were looking at, potentially breaking out from there. And then if the bulls were strong enough to break out, we were looking at maybe coming up into that first more relevant fib retracement at 44.16. And then we talked about this magenta line here being 50% of last week. So if the bulls could actually be strong enough to come up here and get up through 50% of last week, well, then that would really start to light the, give us some more check marks for the potential larger bullish rotation. So let's look what happened here. Market broke out, again, with that expectation of the breakout from those signals. So it was basically what we were expecting, but we weren't sure how far they were going to push. Could they fail from, actually I got to move this over. Could they fail from up off the high the day before there and come back down, right? Or are they going to just peek through the high the day before there and then come back down into the range? We didn't know. But sure enough, it did break out. It got through the high the day before, got through the overnight high and came up. And then interestingly enough, the market got rejection right around 50% of last week. Right, so if we go back to the weekly chart here and we look at that previous weekly candle, we have been getting, we were pulling back and then we got this pop and came right to that 50% of that last week candle, right? And now it's getting rejection from there. So again, this could just be a nice little healthy pullback. Again, a little in-breath in the move, come up, get some more steam, and then pop back out again. That could be what's happening here, but we are getting rejection right around 50% of last week. So if we look at details, I guess I'll bring up the 512 just to show some of the interesting stuff that happened here with our roadmap levels. Market came up to the overnight high, came back down, held one of the retracements we were watching, but more importantly, came right to the close of the day before. And there's a reason I go through this stuff. I'm not going through this stuff to say, hey, look, our levels worked great. It's to show you potential trades that you could be setting up for and building kind of a visual playbook here of things that happen with our level. So we come up right into 50% of the day before here, right? Peak up into the high of the overnight session. And then what happens, it plays around VWAP, but comes down ultimately to retrace back to the close of the day before. I don't know how often I say, guys, if we're down away from the close, it's very common for them to come right up and then parry right off of it. So yesterday, that's the exact scenario that happened. In fact, it broke by 1 tick, right? So pulled back to the close, and then we broke out. And remember what I said, trading within this pocket right here, basically the overnight high and the low of the day before, was going to be a choppy situation, right? Until we could actually break out through the overnight high, or the bears could jump in and push us back below the low of the day before, I didn't want to really be trading in here because it could potentially be choppy. And so look at what happened. I mean, lots of chop in here. Regardless of the chop, still holding these levels to the tick or within a couple ticks. So you might have gotten chopped up, but there were also some opportunities where you got in and the market just rallied right off a lot of these levels. So once we held the close of the day before, the market broke out through the high of the overnight session there. Finally, notice all morning the market kept getting rejections right around that overnight high that we marked. It rejected, it rejected, it rejected, but finally we got the breakout. And then what happened? They pulled back, held the holy orange power level in VWAP, and then that was the beginning of the breakout. And if you miss the breakout, if you miss buying VWAP or buying the Hopel, again, a lot of these plays of getting away from Hopel and coming back to it, and then they bounce right off of it. It happens very, very often. So that play there with the VWAP being there, and being that we broke out and we have this nice healthy pullback to about 50 to 61. There's the 50 right there in that pocket. Beautiful opportunity there to see once we broke out through that high to see if we would carry through with the bullish move. So beautiful opportunity there. And then, like I said, if you missed buying the pullback to the 50% retrace of that leg, basically the morning leg, and again, the confluence of everything else there, well, there were a million other opportunities here. I shouldn't say a million, but you had a lot of other opportunities to jump in with very limited risk when this breakout started to happen. So first things first, pull back right to the FMA. We push to a new high for the day, get through that new high that would break the high of the breakout here, and come back and hold the FMA nearly to the tick. So you could have jumped in on these trades, on these opportunities, I should say. And again, very limited risk. We did get a shy breakthrough of about maybe just under 2 points. It broke through by, again, less than 2 points. It was like 1.75 points. Same thing right there, I believe. But all these opportunities to get in off this, get in off of the FMA on this whole ride up. There's a reason why we have this very, very fast moving average. That's for these type of markets. So, I do this stuff mostly as a training to show you guys, look, this is what you should be thinking when you see holds of levels, when you see the market getting through other levels. That, once we start to get into a strong push and we're breaking out, pullbacks to this fast moving average are beautiful plays. And again, if you would have bought any of these areas, you didn't take more than 2 points of risk, and you could have rode this thing all the way up. Okay, so beautiful pullbacks to the FMA the whole time. Even if you missed it on the initial breakout here and you missed all these buys, look at all the stuff up here. I mean, the whole time that we were just rallying, we've got these pullbacks right to the FMA. nearly, and it's basically to the tick the whole way up. And then finally, if you were long and you were watching this, you should have noticed that we got right to 50% of last week, and it just started to peter out, right? It held that pull back to the 200 there, to the tick for some opportunities for that small bounce, right? How many times do we hold to the tick? And then finally, the whole thing dropped out, right? And as we started to fail, there's that textbook setup, push down and bounce up to hold the 200 and continue lower. So some great opportunities yesterday. Even if you missed the perfect low to get in on the move, you had plenty of opportunities on the way up. So no excuses. In fact, nearly every single test here, you shouldn't have gotten stopped out, and you should have been able to ride this whole move up. So that brings us into this morning.